Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 65 of Diehlman at Halftime, the NBA podcast that tops all others. I'm your host, Larry Diehlman. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome aboard, and if you've been a loyal listener, welcome back. We have much to get to today and not a lot of time to do it. We have 5 sections that we'll get into: a general overview of the NBA this week, and our usual highlight, lowlight, random stat, and game of the week. Let's get to our content for the week. The Oklahoma City Thunder have been winning on the court, but they just earned an off-the-court win. Executive Vice President and General Manager Sam Presti was named Executive of the Year on Tuesday. Presti saw 10 first-place votes from a panel of 30 executives. Every team's executive ranked their top 3 choices. Presti was on 22 ballots. The top runner-ups were Koby Altman of the Cleveland Cavaliers and Trajan Langdon of the Detroit Pistons. Both got 6 first-place votes each. Presti was the assistant general manager from 2000 to 2007 when the San Antonio Spurs won 3 championships in 5 seasons. He was hired by the Seattle Supersonics in 2007, right before they turned into the Thunder. Presti pulled off one of the biggest heists in NBA history in 2019 when he traded Paul George to the LA Clippers for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and a war chest of draft picks. I think we all know how that turned out. Cleveland Cavaliers star Donovan Mitchell exited Game 4 on Sunday with a left ankle injury. Mitchell stopped practicing during halftime warm-ups and was examined by the team's training staff. He didn't play in the second half. It didn't make a big difference regardless, since Indiana was destroying Cleveland. His status for Game 5 on Tuesday is up in the air with a pending MRI. With the Cavaliers on the brink of elimination, hopefully this isn't the final blow to the Cavaliers' season. Finally, the Wells Fargo Center, home of the Philadelphia 76ers and Flyers, has a new name: Xfinity Mobile Arena. The name change, announced Tuesday, will be effective September 1st, and it'll run through the 2030-31 season. The Wells Fargo name was set to expire in August. The arena opened in 1996 and has gone through multiple titles with the word center, including Core States, First Union, Wachovia, and Wells Fargo. Remember, the Sixers canceled their plans of knocking down parts of Chinatown to make way for a new arena. The logistics of that were going to be ugly. They will partner with Comcast Spectacor, their landlord, to make a new arena in South Philly, which will open for the 2031-32 season. This episode is entitled Against All Odds. So, who's raising eyebrows at the moment? Let's go to our highlight, the Indiana Pacers. So I guess some things in life aren't flukes after all. The Indiana Pacers have a commanding 3-1 lead in their Eastern Conference Semifinals series with the Cleveland Cavaliers. After a surprising run to the Eastern Conference Finals last year, the Pacers are knocking on the door of doing it again. Tyrese Haliburton, Indiana's star, is averaging 14 points, 4.3 rebounds, 6.8 assists, and 1 block per game against Cleveland. His stats are a little skewed due to a Game 3 clunker. It was one thing for Indiana to steal Game 1 against a healthy Cavaliers team missing just Darius Garland. However, it was another to go up 2-0 on the road despite Cleveland being down Garland, Evan Mobley, and DeAndre Hunter. Cleveland blew out Indiana in Game 3, and Indiana returned the favor in Game 4. Donovan Mitchell carried Cleveland on his back in Game 2 to the tune of 48 points, 9 assists, and 4 steals. It wasn't enough. The Pacers, being a pest and grabbing every offensive rebound and putback slam imaginable, kept the game within reach. You know what made Game 2 interesting? The Cleveland fans were chanting overrated at Tyrese Haliburton, who was recently voted by his peers as the most overrated player in the league. Haliburton proceeded to grab the last offensive rebound and hit a step-back triple for the win. Yikes. Be careful what you wish for. Game 5 and the potential closer is tomorrow, Tuesday, May 13th at 7 o'clock back in Cleveland. To get more insight into our highlight this week, we have our 15th guest on Diehlman at Halftime Season 2. Let's get into it. So for our 15th guest of Season 2 on the Diehlman at Halftime podcast, we welcome Sean Bernard. Sean is a content writer for DraftKings, a content creator for Digest Media, and a Sixers insider for Fox 102.5 The Gambler, presented by iHeartRadio. In 2022, he founded Pick Swap Media, a podcast network that's rooted in Philly sports. Sean has a degree in healthcare administration from Alvernia University. Sean, how are we doing today?
Yeah, appreciate the awesome intro and you having me on in the first place. I mentioned this to you before, but I might have to steal that intro for myself because that sums it up pretty good.
No, it's great. It's great to have you on. Alvernia, obviously close by to the South Jersey region, so it's good to have you.
Yeah.
So, Sean, I wanted to get your thoughts on the Indiana Pacers. They are our highlight for the week. They are currently up 2-0 on the Cleveland Cavaliers in the Eastern Conference semifinals, and they were both in Cleveland. So, my first question for you, the Pacers stole games 1 and 2 on the road, with game 2 coming down to a Tyrese Halliburton triple. What have you seen in this series to explain how Indiana is cooling down the red-hot Cavs? Including the Miami series, Cleveland was 36-7 at home this season before meeting Indiana.
Yeah, it's been awesome hoops across the board in this playoffs, and this series is certainly fitting that criteria there. This Pacers team, they're hungry, man. They got some scrap in them, and I think we can take one thing from these playoffs so far. It is those teams that just hang around and give themselves a chance. The Pacers certainly an example of that. The New York Knicks certainly an example of that as well, which I'm sure we will get into. But for this Pacers team specifically here, they're fighting, man. They carry this chip on their shoulder as this team that I think was labeled a bit as like a fraudulent team that got through because of injuries last year. And if we're going to have the entire conversation, we do have to acknowledge on Cleveland's side the injuries to Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, and DeAndre Hunter, who are all battling through stuff there. But you can only beat who's in front of you. And I do give the Pacers the utmost credit for that. So I think they've done enough to keep themselves around and had that kind of killer instinct at the end to go out and take it. They deserve the credit for stepping on the necks, getting up 2-0. I still think this is a series that's going to be in it for the long haul, with the utmost respect for the Pacers to this point.
Yeah, the Pacers have just been really turning heads the last 2 seasons. Last year, they made the Eastern Conference Finals and, of course, ran into the Celtics juggernaut. And now going against Cleveland, they've been hot all year. They've really turned it around under Kenny Atkinson. And all of a sudden, the Pacers, even though the Cavs have injuries, they were really fighting in game 2. And I was watching it, and they were just getting all of the offensive rebounds and putback slams, and they just would not go away. Even with Donovan Mitchell, who was running on fumes, by the way, like you could see he was just gassed. The Pacers would just not go away. And at the end of game 2, Tyrese Halliburton grabbed that big offensive rebound, said, you know what, I'll take it myself, hit the step back 3, and that was it. So it's definitely been eye-opening, and now they go home to Indiana to maybe close out the series in the weekend. Who knows? So next, it feels like the Pacers are always disrespected when it comes to rankings or believing they can make a deep playoff run. Do you believe they've been disrespected? Do they just not have the publicity of teams like the Celtics and Thunder? They're 2 wins away from a second straight Eastern Conference Finals appearance.
Yeah, I totally agree that they are disrespected here. And I mean, it comes from everybody here. Like, not to throw a little bit more smut on his name because I'm a Lou Will fan myself, but we're talking about before the playoffs, this guy being an NBA analyst and talk about how he doesn't even really watch them play. And they're a team that is worth watching play, man. At the minimum, they are a blast to watch, and we're seeing this translate to winning here. So it was a little interesting to me because I think the Cavaliers fall a little bit in that same category entering the series, that they obviously led the Eastern Conference from start to finish this year, that they were dominant right out of the gates, and I think they carried that into that opening series against Miami, where they produced one of the most dominant series ever. But this Pacers team has leveled them up again. And I think this starts front and center with the conversation with Tyrese Halliburton. Him being voted the most overrated player in the NBA, I think might end up being the best thing for him in the long haul, because there does feel like an extra chip on his shoulder, and he is proving it in this playoffs, man. He's got a little nastiness to him that I do not think I saw before, and I do think that is like directly translating to this Pacers team. So they're running right with them, and I don't think they're done making noise just yet.
It was interesting because it was just announced, I think earlier today, that Halliburton was slapped with a warning because he did certain celebration that we won't discuss here. He did a certain celebration that the NBA frowns upon, and he got a warning. He did not get fined for it. But like you said, with the just being motivated by it, and Donovan Mitchell, apparently, I saw it. He was like toning down the crowd, like because the crowd was chanting overrated. That's basically the equivalent of a opposing fan base chanting "We won Boston." That's just, it never ends well. I don't know why people continue to do it, but it just seems like, all right, we're on the top of our game, and then you do something like chant overrated, and he just happens to hit a step back three, and now you're down 0-2. So I don't know what to tell you, but that's just how things go.
Yeah, and I do think that athletes as a whole need to learn the lesson about poking the bear a little bit. It feels like we have a million examples of things going wrong when that happens, but nonetheless, I get it. People want to puff their chest and, assert their dominance when it's a clean slate here. But shout out to Halliburton. He's absolutely getting the last laugh, and the job in the series is far from done at this point. But man, he's making a lot of people eat their words right now.
It's definitely something interesting to see over in Indiana. So, besides the obvious suspects, who's a player on the Pacers you would call underrated, not overrated, underrated? Have they been a factor in Indiana's entire playoff run, just this Cleveland series, and what makes them stand out?
Yeah, and I love that you asked this question because there's frankly a lot of candidates on this Pacers team. I mean, they are a really deep team who's getting production from start to finish there. You can run down the list of even a guy like Ben Shepherd, who I love, Andrew Nemhart, Aaron Naismith, Thomas Bryant, even give him good minutes. But I do think Naismith is the answer here. This is a guy that, with Halliburton, I think some of the critiques of him being a bit too passive at time, it's been on the shoulders of Naismith to serve as a legitimate creator in their offense, and he's delivered. He's leveled up his points per game by over 6 so far in the playoffs coming from a 10 point per game guy across the regular season. He's up over 16 through the start of this series here. And I do think that they're like points that matter. These aren't just the catch and shoot threes that guys luck into. He's taking guys off the dribble. He's picking up his workload and his effort level. And I mean, it's been very important to this team. So I do think this Pacers team has a lot of candidates for this answer here. But for me, Andrew Nemhart is my number one answer for that. I mixed up both of them, love both of them.
Nemhard's a good answer. Neesmith is a good answer. Neesmith was a former Celtic outcast, I guess you could say, and Nemhard has definitely been a great factor in their playoffs the last few years. I remember last year he hit like a clutch shot. I think it was against the Knicks, maybe game three, if my memory serves me correct. But he's a big time player, and this Pacers team definitely young. I know they have some veterans like Miles Turner's been there for a hot minute, and Halliburton wasn't drafted yesterday, but they do have a lot of young players. And even for our Philly friends, TJ McConnell, he's still there.
Oh, oh yeah.
So
Still making
definitely.
an impact too. TJ still doing his thing off the bench. That there are those moments where he kind of flips the game a little bit, which I still love watching.
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely great for TJ. But definitely a lot of great players on their team and going to be a problem as we get closer to the Eastern Conference Finals. So to wrap things up, despite the 2-0 series lead, the series is not over yet. We've seen it time and time again. Go ask the 2016 Warriors what happened when they had a 3-1 lead over LeBron. However, the winner of this series would face either the Celtics or the Knicks for the chance to go to the NBA Finals. What are your early thoughts on Cleveland or Indiana facing Boston or New York?
Yeah, and I'll start by saying I'm shocked for this to be a 2-0 in the Knicks direction here. That I thought this, frankly, was kind of a Celtics versus the rest of the Eastern Conference all season. Now, that's sort of how I looked at things, that they were another level above here. But how these teams stack up and the way we're seeing these playoffs play out, you got to give every team a fair chance, man. And I do think that there's a little bit towards the momentum on Indiana's side. So they have to finish their job in Cleveland. But I think that their style of play, they're frankly a much better defensive team than they get credit. I think we have in our brain from a couple years ago them just being this up-tempo, all offense style of play. They still have that in their game there, but they certainly can get, bear down and defend in a way that is required in a playoff setting there. So I'm not counting this Indiana Pacers team out from winning the overall, Eastern Conference at the minimum. We won't go as far as championship just yet, as I do think there's a bit more depth still existing in the Western Conference at this current point. But the Pacers are the real deal. They're proving it, and I'm not counting them out if they are the team facing whoever is the victor out of the Celtics in next series.
It's going to be interesting how the rest of this Cleveland Indiana series plays out. Obviously, no team has ever come back from a 3-0 deficit. We've seen 3-1, but we've never seen 3-0. So if Cleveland or Boston loses game three, it might be wraps. You never know, but definitely history is not on either one of their sides. And especially since both of them would have to go on the road and potentially win three of the next four on the road to at least make it a 6 game series. But we could get a couple options. We could get Cleveland, Boston, Cleveland, New York, Indy, Boston, Indy, New York. It's going to be a fun Eastern Conference Finals, and it's interesting to see how Cleveland and Boston, despite their dominance, not the favorites right now. So a lot of parity going on, and it's just going to be fun for the fans to watch see it unfold. So Sean, thank you so much for coming on Diehlman at halftime, and we hope to get you back on in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate you having me, and always ready whenever.
Let's go to our low light, the Golden State Warriors. Think of a team that's always favored to win a game or series even if they shouldn't be. The Golden State Warriors came to my mind. The Warriors are down 2-1 in their Western Conference semifinals series against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Golden State's chances at winning this series took a hit the moment Steph Curry left Game 1 with a strained hamstring. He won't be able to return at least until Game 6. That is, if the series even reaches 6 games. However, now we see why the Warriors front office went and traded for Jimmy Butler. Butler is averaging 23.3 points, 8.3 rebounds, 6.3 assists, and 1 steal in 3 games over Minnesota, his former team. Golden State has been on a roll since Butler's arrival, and I expect that to continue in the postseason. In Curry's absence, Jonathan Kuminga is finally able to play meaningful minutes. Despite Kuminga having a career season last year, head coach Steve Kerr doesn't play him these days due to scheme fit. However, Kuminga had 30 points and 2 blocks off the bench in Game 3. Buddy Hield has recently been scalding hot, and Brandon Podziemski is a nice piece. If Golden State can take Game 4, they're right back in the series. If not, it might be a wrap. Game 4 is tonight, Monday, May 12th at 10 o'clock in Golden State. Let's head over to our random stat. While the NBA playoffs are underway, the non-playoff teams will have their own playoffs tonight, Monday, May 12th, the draft lottery. The lottery is at 7 o'clock and will be live from Chicago. Tonight will show who will get the number 1 pick to most likely select Duke freshman forward Cooper Flagg. The Utah Jazz, Washington Wizards, and Charlotte Hornets all have the best odds to land the number 1 pick with a 14% chance. The New Orleans Pelicans and the Philadelphia 76ers are the other two with at least a 10% chance. Philadelphia's draft pick, though, has an asterisk next to it. Why? It's top 6 protected. If the pick falls between 1 through 6, they keep it. If it goes 7 or below, it will be conveyed to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Yeah, the Thunder, who are the best team in the league. When the Sixers dumped off Al Horford to the Thunder in 2020, this pick was part of the deal. Philadelphia did a good job at tanking at the end of this season, but wasn't enough to give them the best odds. Rutgers freshman Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper and Texas freshman Trey Johnson are considered other top prospects in June's draft. As they say in the Hunger Games, may the odds be ever in your favor. Finally, let's go to Game of the Week. For this week's Game of the Week, let's try the Boston Celtics at New York Knicks. This game, which is Game 4 of this Eastern Conference semifinal series, is tonight, Monday, May 12th at 7:30 p.m. After 2 huge collapses at home in Games 1 and 2, the Celtics took Game 3 at Madison Square Garden behind a team-high 23 points off the bench from Peyton Pritchard. In those games, New York stole momentum from Boston, but the Celtics didn't help themselves by settling for a ton of triples that weren't falling. I figured there was a minuscule chance they would go down 3-0, so now this series is going to a minimum of 5 games. Interestingly, the last 3 champions before Boston last year, Milwaukee, Golden State, and Denver, all lost in the conference semifinals the following season. Are the Celtics keeping the trend alive? I'm going with Boston to tie the series 114-106. Well, that's all the time we have for today. If you haven't already, make sure to follow me on social media. I have 2 X or Twitter accounts and 2 Instagram accounts. The podcast accounts are under @Diehlman_NBA for both X and Instagram. My personal X account is @LarryDiehlman18, and my personal Instagram is @Mr_Sports18. They're also in the description on Buzzsprout, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And thank you to Sean Bernard for being our guest this week on the podcast. Remember, you can follow him on X @Sean_Bernard1 and Instagram @Bernard_Sean. And don't forget to spread the word about Diehlman at halftime. See you next time, fellow Hoops fans.